All right, so this is lesson 5 of Python for data analysis. So to start out, we're going to go to the GitHub page for Python for data analysis, and we can click on the lessons folder, and we're going to go to lesson 5. And let's go ahead and we're going to download this notebook to our computer and run it locally. So click on this raw link to get to the actual IPython notebook JSON format file. This is what it actually looks like. And we're going to copy that link using preferably the appropriate keyboard shortcut for your browser. And then we're going to go to terminal and make it bigger here. And I'm going to go to cd SIO209/lessons, and then I'm going to type curl -O double quotes. I'm going to paste that link and then close it with another double quote and hit enter, and that's going to download the lesson. Okay. So next thing we want to do is open up this lesson as a Jupyter notebook. But what do we have to do before we can do that? We have to activate our Conda environment, right? So whether you're if you're using a Mac or Linux, it should be source activate, or maybe you have a newer version that uses Conda activate. Can someone tell me, those of you who installed recently on your Macs, is it Conda activate for you or is it source activate? Source. Yeah, it might work with Conda activate. I'm not sure, but in any case, you can let me know if it works. I believe if I tried to do Conda activate Python 3, it has not been properly configured to use Conda activate. There's a way to do it, but I'm not gonna. So I'm just gonna type source activate Python 3. Remember, this is just the name of this environment. We called it Python 3. We could have called it anything, but this is just a reminder that it's a Python 3 environment. And so now that's activated. So now I can type Jupyter Notebook remember Jupyter spelled with a Y. Hit enter. And that's going to take my web browser and open up a Jupyter Notebook browser. So what you can see is I got all the contents of this lessons folder, and as far as Jupyter is concerned, this is the root. So I can't go any higher than the folder where I start the notebook. So if I wanted to access the other folders in my SIO209 folder, I'd have to launch Jupyter from a higher level folder. But for this purposes, we're all good. And in fact, remember this test folder, it doesn't have anything. So I could actually delete that. I can click on it and then hit the trash, and I can delete that folder. We got some other stuff here that we don't really need, but we can leave there for now. So we're going to click on lesson 5.ipynb. And now we are now in the notebook, and we can edit any of these cells. So if I were to double click here, you can see what this actually looks like. So actually here are some links to different parts of the notebook. So this is a table of contents, and these are links to there's one link here to the readings for the day. If I want to exit out of there, I can run that cell by pressing Shift and then hit Enter. So we're going to do a lot of Shift Enter just to warn you. Has everybody gotten to this point? Okay. So last time we had a command line or a Python crash course that we wanted to do, but we ran out of time. So I asked you to go ahead and go through that for your assignment. But don't worry, we have plenty of time to go through all that stuff again. We're going to go through that material a couple more times, and you also have the chance to go through it on your own. And in fact, I put the videos up on the playlist from last year where we go through the crash course. So between all that, you should have a chance to see all that material. And today we're going to go through it again. Mm-hmm.
Is there a shortcut for inserting cells above and below?
Yeah, so if you want to insert a cell above or below, when you're in this, what do they call it? There's two different, if we go to keyboard shortcuts, there's command mode and there's edit mode. So when you're in command mode, you can see over here, you can type A to insert a cell above or B to insert a cell below, and X to cut, C to copy, and V to paste. Mm-hmm. So if I'm here and I type A, if this is blue and then I type A, it's going to add a cell above, and then I can just hit X and delete that. Okay, so what we're going to do today is another question.
I don't know if it's the Windows thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it before. It just says the notebook open. At the top, I have kernel error, and there's like the play button next to every one of my code boxes, which I've never seen before.
Okay.
It's working.
Okay. Yeah, you might. Your window might look differently than mine. Do any of the other Windows users see something like that?
I have that too. I also haven't seen it before, but it looks like it's working.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes there might be there might be a new version of Jupyter that was installed when we created this environment that you might not have used before. Sometimes that'll happen. So we'll just see. But what we're going to cover today is some different data types, starting with strings, which are sequences of characters, and they actually work a lot like lists of characters, as we'll see. And then we're going to have a number of different kinds of numbers, so integers, floating points, that kind of thing. So first off, with strings, so when you were doing the homework, you have to do a lot of print commands. Print is a way to display some, information to the screen. So if you want to see the value of a variable or something like this, you can print that variable and see what comes out, and that will give you its value. This is important if you're writing a script, for example, and your script is running, and you want to see, like maybe you're getting an error in something, and you want to see how that value is being stored internally. You can add a print command to see what's happening. The nice thing about IPython or Jupyter notebooks is that when you execute a cell, it will oftentimes, depending on what kind of command you enter, but basically if you enter just an expression or a variable, it will display the value of that to your screen. So here, if we type print and then in parentheses this string, this is a sentence in single quotes, it will just print. When that print command removes the quotes, it kind of makes it look prettier. But if we type that same expression but without the print command, we still get the value of that expression. We just see the single quotes now, so it kind of tells us more that it's a string. Same thing if we use double quotes. If we print, we will get the value of that expression.
Should we clear?
Yeah.
Clear the kernel first?
Yeah, we can clear the kernel. Yeah, that's a good idea. So the what we can do here is, yeah, let's actually go up to the top and restart and clear output. What this is going to do is going to restart the kernel, which will restart the numbering of those cells, and it'll also clear all the output. The advantage of this is that you're not going to see what's happening before we run it. So that's a good question. Yeah, typically we'll do that, but it doesn't change how it works. It just changes whether we get a preview or not. So now this is our first cell here of code, so we can hit Shift Enter, and now we're seeing the values here. So if we have if we want to display single quotes, we can put our whole string in double quotes, and vice versa. If we want to display double quotes, we can put the whole string in single quotes. Alternatively, we can also, if we want to show double quotes but we want to still put the whole string in double quotes, we can use an escape character. So that's a backslash before the quote mark, and that prevents it from being interpreted as the end of the string. It just interprets it as a quote character. So there's some other escape characters. There's this pound sign, which in this case doesn't get interpreted as a comment, but if it's outside of a string, it will. So if I put a pound sign here, you can see that whole line is now grayed out and it's italicized. That's telling me that it's now a comment and not code. So I remove that. We've also got that quote character and a forward slash. We can also add strings. So when we add, we're not actually adding, we're concatenating. So one of the things about Python that's kind of cool is that it's dynamically typed. And what that means is that the meaning of an operator like a plus sign is determined based on the types of the things that you're adding, right? If they're strings, it will concatenate them. If they're integers, it will add them. It's able to tell the difference between a string and an integer and perform the right operation on that type of data. That has advantages when you write code in that there's some flexibility, but it can also be dangerous. So it's just something to be aware of. So when we use that addition operator, it's actually concatenating because these are strings. We can also use triple quotes, and these can be either single or double quotes as long as they're the same on both ends. So this is a block of text. And the nice thing about this is that we can add a new line and we don't need anything to demarcate that. Once we have that triple quote, everything after that until the next triple quote is going to be part of that block. So we can also insert these other kind of escape characters, which are /T or N, and that's a tab or a new line character. So here we have a tab. In fact, if we try to highlight that, you'll feel that there's a tab there, as opposed to spaces. And then a new line, and then another tab, and a new line, and another tab, and a new line. So this is handy for a number of things when you want to write a text file. Using this kind of syntax, you could write a tab delimited file, right? One line at a time, adding tabs between your values.
What's the N there?
The N?
Indicator?
The N is a new line,
Oh, okay.
and the T is a tab.
Yeah, back slash T.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's actually, isn't it forward slash? Because when you write it, you're going forward. I think it's really confusing. The one that that one is, this is the escape character. So this one is for like a path, and this one is usually as an escape character that's true in a lot of parts of computer science, except for Windows uses this as its separator, so it's backwards. But yeah, so those are the two examples of escape characters, and there's other ones, especially when you do regular expressions. But these are two of the major ones. If you want to indicate a comma, you just type a comma. Okay, so now we can get into some more advanced stuff with strings. So strings are just sequences of characters, and so this means they behave a lot like a list. So so here we have S is going to be a variable, and it's a string is assigned to that variable. So if we execute this, nothing happens, but under the hood, that string spam has been assigned to S. So we can now get some properties of S. So we can get the length of S using this function len. So this string has 4 characters, so it has a length of 4. If we want to get the first letter of that string, we can use this bracket notation to index that first letter, and that is index 0. Now, with lists and with strings and with a lot of things in Python, the numbering starts from 0. So the first element of a list, or the first letter character in a string is character 0, or list element 0, and then 1 is the second one, 2 is the third one. This may seem strange to you, but this has a lot of advantages. If you wanted to, say, considering the first position of a bunch of strings, they all have 0, and so if you say you added the index of all those, you'd still be at 0, right? Instead of somewhere down the line. Like, there's a lot of advantages to this, and when we do loops and things like this. So you'll see why this has an advantage. But for now, you can just remember that we're counting from 0. So if we wanted to print each character individually, we can write that string S with 0, 1, 2, or 3, and just separated by commas. This is actually going to create another kind of data type called a tuple, which we'll see in a minute, but a tuple is kind of like a list. So it's going to be like a list of the 4 letters in that string. So with strings and with lists, the indexing can also be done backwards. So, and by the way, I'm using comments here to give you some more information. So this pound sign is indicating a comment, and so that just gets ignored. So if I type S with square brackets and a -1, I get the last letter in the word. So I'm going to actually just pause the video for a minute here and do a little demo in class.